The security perimeter around the Void-class dreadnought shattered at 0400 hours. Captain Lysandra Chen watched her tactical display explode with proximity alerts as something small breached the quantum barriers that separated human space from the Kaltari Imperial flagship. Not a missile, not a drone. The heat signature read biological, human biological. "Impossible!" her second officer whispered. Lysandra's jaw tightened. Nothing human could survive the radiation field surrounding that ship. The Kaltari didn't breathe oxygen. Their vessel leaked exotic particles that would cook human cells in seconds. Yet something had passed through 3 layers of containment, bypassed failsafes that had held for 2 centuries of uneasy peace, and was now drifting toward the one place in the galaxy humans were explicitly forbidden to approach. "Get me a visual." The screen flickered. A child, maybe 8 years old, encased in a makeshift pressure suit cobbled together from what looked like mining equipment and medical gel packs. Her blonde hair floated inside a cracked helmet. Her eyes were closed. "She's still alive," the medical officer said, voice cracking. "Barely. Chen, that's Sarah Voss." The name hit like a physical blow. Lysandra knew it. Everyone in the fleet knew it. Rear Admiral Marcus Voss's daughter. The girl who'd watched her father's cruiser get torn apart by Kaltari defense platforms 6 days ago during what was supposed to be a peaceful patrol. An accident, the aliens claimed. A malfunction. The fragile treaty between species held by a thread as diplomats scrambled to prevent war. She launched herself from the civilian quarter. The officer continued. Stole a maintenance pod, rigged a suit, and aimed herself at their flagship. Lysandra's hands moved across her console, calculating trajectories. The child would reach the Kaltari hull in 90 seconds. Once she made contact, protocol was clear. The aliens would classify it as an attack. Defensive measures were authorized under the treaty. The girl would be vaporized, and humanity would have no legal recourse. Tractor beam? Now. "Captain, if we fire any beam weapon toward their ship?" I said now. The beam lanced out, gentle as silk, wrapping around the tiny figure tumbling through space. Lysandra held her breath. The Kaltari ship remained dark, silent, its weapons ports closed. They were watching, waiting. Then her communications console lit up. Not with human frequencies, with a harmonic resonance that meant the Kaltari Queen herself was requesting contact. No human had ever spoken directly to the Queen. Treaty negotiations happened through intermediaries, carefully scripted exchanges filtered through translation matrices. Direct contact violated a dozen protocols. The Queen didn't speak to lesser species. She especially didn't speak to military captains of those species. Lysandra accepted the connection. The screen filled with something that hurt to look at directly. The Queen's form shifted through dimensions human eyes couldn't quite process. She existed in more spaces than 3, her consciousness vast enough to command fleets spanning light years. When she spoke, the translation came not as words, but as concepts that carved themselves directly into Lysandra's mind. The small one seeks audience. It wasn't a question. Lysandra's throat went dry. "Your Majesty, she's a child. She doesn't understand what she's doing." "She understands grief." The Queen's presence pressed against Lysandra's thoughts, reading surface memories, scanning intentions. In Kaltari culture, touching the Queen's ship uninvited meant death. No exceptions. Their laws had governed 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. She's hurt, confused. Her father died 6 days ago on the Valiant Dawn. "I am aware." Silence stretched. Sarah's vitals flickered on Lysandra's medical readout. The makeshift suit was failing. Oxygen at 12%. Core temperature dropping. The child had maybe 10 minutes before hypothermia claimed her. "Your laws forbid bringing her aboard your vessel," Lysandra said carefully. "Our laws forbid abandoning our own. We have a problem. The matter is resolved." Her vast presence remained, waiting, testing. Lysandra made a choice that would either save 2 species or doom them both. She came to say goodbye to her father. "The debris field from the Valiant Dawn drifts near your ship. She's 8 years old. She built a suit from spare parts and launched herself into space because she needed to reach the place where he died. That takes more courage than most soldiers I've commanded." The Queen's form rippled. "Courage is irrelevant. Law is absolute. Then our species are more different than I thought." Lysandra kept her voice steady. "Humans honor courage, even in children, especially in children. We remember those who risk everything for love, For 5 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then the Kaltari flagship's landing bay doors opened. Impossible. Unprecedented. The quantum barriers that would kill any human who entered lowered to a shimmer. "Bring the small one," the Queen said. "Let her say goodbye." The medical officer found his voice first. "Captain, the radiation... I will ensure her safety, but she comes alone. And you, Captain Chen, will accompany her. Someone must witness what happens next." The channel shifted to show Sarah, conscious now, her eyes wide with pain and determination. She'd heard everything through her suit's emergency band. Her voice came through thin and wavering. "Please, I just want to see where Daddy died. I won't touch anything. I promise." Lysandra looked at the child who'd broken every law humanity had negotiated, who'd risked everything for a chance to grieve. Then she looked at her crew, at the diplomatic disaster waiting to unfold, at the treaty that might shatter. "Prep a shuttle," she said quietly. "Medical team on standby. And someone contact Fleet Command. Tell them I'm about to do something spectacularly stupid." She moved toward the docking bay, each step feeling like walking toward either humanity's greatest moment or its final mistake. Behind her, officers scrambled to protocols that didn't exist, to contingencies no one had planned for. Because in 2 centuries of careful diplomacy, no one had considered what would happen when a child's grief proved stronger than fear, when love demanded acknowledgement even from alien queens who ruled the stars. The shuttle bay doors opened. Sarah waited inside the medical transport, her broken suit replaced with proper gear, her small hand gripping an old photograph of her father. She looked up at Lysandra with eyes that held too much pain for someone so young. "Thank you," she whispered. Lysandra knelt beside her. "Don't thank me yet. We're about to enter a ship no human has ever walked. We're going to meet a being who could end our entire species with a thought, and we're doing it because you decided laws mattered less than love." Sarah nodded. Daddy would have done the same thing. Yes, Lysandra thought. He probably would have. And that was either humanity's greatest strength or its most fatal flaw. The shuttle launched toward the waiting darkness of the Kaltari flagship, carrying a grieving child and a captain who prayed she hadn't just started a war. The Kaltari landing bay swallowed them whole. Lysandra had studied alien architecture for 20 years, but nothing prepared her for this. The walls breathed, not metaphorically. They actually expanded and contracted with rhythmic precision, processing atmospheres humans had no names for. Gravity shifted as they crossed the threshold, adjusting to accommodate bipedal movement. Sarah pressed against the viewport, her breath fogging the glass. The photograph of her father remained clutched in her left hand, creased from 6 days of constant holding. She hadn't let go of it since they'd pulled her father's remains from the wreckage. "Stay close," Lysandra said. "Touch nothing. Speak only if the Queen addresses you directly." The shuttle settled onto a platform that formed from liquid metal, solidifying beneath them with a sound like singing crystal. When the airlock opened, Lysandra expected poison, radiation, death. Instead, the atmosphere that flowed in smelled of copper and ozone and something sweetly floral that made her teeth ache. Breathable, her suit's analyzer confirmed. Modified, she changed the environment for us. The realization struck Lysandra like a fist. The Queen had altered her own ship's atmosphere. Doing so required computational power that could run a small planet, energy expenditure that would dim stars, all for one child and one captain. They stepped into a corridor that stretched into impossible distances. The walls displayed star charts of territories humanity had never seen, battles fought before Earth's sun ignited, treaties written in languages that predated human consciousness. Sarah's eyes widened, but she didn't slow down. She knew where she needed to go. Somehow, she knew. "The debris field is this way," she said, pointing down a passage that curved upward, defying normal physics. "How do you..." "I can feel him." Sarah's voice carried absolute certainty. He's close. They walked through corridors that shifted around them, doors opening before they arrived, pathways forming in real time. The ship itself guided them. Lysandra's tactical training screamed warnings about traps, about being separated from support, about entering hostile territory with no backup plan. But Sarah's small hand found hers, squeezing tight, and Lysandra realized the child was leading her, not the other way around. They emerged into an observation chamber that shouldn't exist. One wall had become transparent, revealing the void beyond. And there, suspended in space precisely where the Queen had positioned her flagship, floated the scattered remains of the Valiant Dawn. Sarah's breath caught. Lysandra felt her own chest tighten. The cruiser had been torn apart cleanly, surgically. Not an accident, Not a malfunction. Deliberate targeting that had cut through shields and hull armor designed to withstand star core temperatures. She knows, Lysandra realized. The Queen knows it wasn't an accident. Of course I know. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. The Queen materialized in the chamber, her form compressing into dimensions that human perception could almost grasp. She became something vaguely humanoid, tall and terrible and beautiful. Her eyes held galaxies. The attack was authorized by my defense coordinator. He saw threat where none existed. He made a choice that violated every protocol I established. Sarah turned to face the being who ruled 1,000 worlds. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice stayed steady. You killed my daddy. Instead, she lowered herself until her eyes met Sarah's. I did. My failure to control my subordinates resulted in your father's death, in the death of 217 humans aboard that vessel. I came here, to this location, to bear witness to what my negligence destroyed.
Lysandra's mind raced through implications.
The Queen had positioned her flagship at the debris field. She'd been here for 6 days. Watching. Acknowledging. Why? Lysandra asked. Because your species does something mine has forgotten. The Queen gestured toward Sarah. You grieve. You honor your dead. You risk everything to say goodbye. When my people die, we process their genetic material and move forward. Efficient.
Logical.
Empty. The Queen raised one hand and the debris field outside began to move. Pieces of shattered hull, scorched plating, frozen atmosphere containers, all of it started drifting together. The Queen's power reached across vacuum, guided by precision that made human engineering look like children playing with blocks. Your father, Marcus Voss, sent 37 transmissions in his final moments, the Queen said to Sarah. 36 were to his crew, ensuring their evacuation. 1 was to you. A hologram appeared, pulled from the Valiant Dawn's dying communications array. Marcus Voss, bleeding from a head wound, smoke filling his bridge, looked directly into the camera. Sarah, baby, if you're seeing this, something went wrong. I need you to know that I love you. I need you to know that you're the bravest person I've ever met. And I need you to promise me something. Sarah sobbed, clutching the photograph tighter. Promise me you'll keep being brave. Keep asking questions. Keep pushing boundaries. Don't let fear make you small. The galaxy is bigger and stranger than we ever imagined, and people like you, people who love hard and feel deep, you're what will help us understand it. The message ended. Sarah collapsed to her knees, and Lysandra knelt beside her, holding the child while she wept. The Queen remained motionless, watching with eyes that had witnessed civilizations rise and fall. When Sarah's tears finally slowed, she looked up at the Queen. I came to say goodbye. That's all. I didn't mean to break your laws. You broke 7 interspecies treaties, 12 security protocols, and 1 absolute prohibition against approaching Imperial vessels, the Queen said. You also demonstrated more courage than most warriors I have commanded. Your father's final transmission asked you to be brave. You honored that request. The debris field outside had formed into something new. The Queen had taken the shattered pieces of the Valiant Dawn and arranged them into a memorial. Hull plates spelled out the names of every crew member who died. Power cores, still faintly glowing, formed a perimeter of light. At the center, the ship's command chair floated untouched, preserved in a stasis field that would last millennia. This will remain here, the Queen said, at the coordinates where the Valiant Dawn fell. My flagship will maintain this position for 10 cycles of your homeworld around its star. Any human who wishes to pay respects may approach. The prohibition is lifted. Let your people grieve. Lysandra understood what the Queen was offering. 10 years, a decade where humanity could visit this place, say goodbye, honor their dead. An act of mercy that violated every Kael'thari precedent. Why? Lysandra asked again. The Queen's gaze shifted to her. Because this child taught me something I had forgotten. Love is not weakness. Grief is not inefficiency. They are the forces that bind individuals into something greater than themselves. Your species may be young, fragile, short-lived, but you feel with an intensity that shapes reality itself. That is worth preserving. That is worth honoring. She turned back to Sarah. I cannot return your father. I cannot undo what my failure allowed, but I can ensure his sacrifice is remembered. I can ensure you had your chance to say goodbye. And I can promise you that the coordinator who gave the order to fire has been removed from command. Justice is not healing, but it is acknowledgement. She walked to the transparent wall and placed her small hand against it, reaching toward the memorial floating in space. "Goodbye, Daddy," she whispered. "I'll keep being brave. I promise." The Queen watched in silence. Then she did something no Keltari had ever done. She placed one hand over her primary heart, the organ that regulated her connection to the dimensional forces she commanded, in a gesture of respect borrowed from human military tradition. "Your father died protecting his crew," the Queen said. "He died ensuring others could live. In my culture, we have a word for such beings, Kaishen, guardian of the unwilling to see harm come. We reserve this title for our most honored warriors. Today, I grant it to Marcus Voss, human, father protector. Let it be recorded in the Imperial Archives that he died with honor, and his daughter carried that honor across the void to ensure his memory endured." Lysandra felt something crack in her chest. The Queen was doing more than creating a memorial. She was incorporating Marcus Voss into Kael'thari history. She was making him part of their eternal record, ensuring that as long as their civilization existed, his name would be remembered. "Thank you," Sarah said simply. The Queen inclined her head. "You are welcome, small one. You taught me that laws exist to serve the living, not to bind them in meaningless tradition. You reminded me why we build civilizations in the first place. Not for efficiency, not for order, but so that when we lose those we love, we have the strength to honor them properly." She straightened, her form beginning to shift back into dimensions human eyes couldn't follow. "Captain Chen, you will escort Sarah Voss back to your vessel. You will inform your superiors that the Kael'thari Empire acknowledges full responsibility for the destruction of the Valiant Dawn. Reparations will be paid. Protocols will be revised, and this location will become the first jointly maintained memorial between our species. Our government will want to negotiate terms. There are no terms. This is not negotiation. This is acknowledgement of debt." The Queen's voice carried absolute finality. "Your species has shown mine something we lost long ago. The least we can do is honor that gift." She began to fade, her presence withdrawing from the chamber. But before she vanished completely, she spoke once more, and her words were directed solely at Sarah. "The galaxy needs beings like you. It needs those who love fiercely enough to break worlds. Guard that fire. Let it light your way through the darkness ahead. And know that if you ever need sanctuary, if you ever face danger you cannot overcome, my fleet will answer. You have earned that right." Then she was gone, leaving only the memorial floating in space, and two humans standing in an observation chamber that no member of their species should have survived entering. Sarah turned to Lysandra, exhaustion finally showing in her eyes. "Can we go home now?" Lysandra nodded, her own throat too tight for words. She took Sarah's hand, and together they walked back through corridors that guided them toward their shuttle, through a ship that had reconfigured itself to keep them safe. As their shuttle launched back toward human space, Lysandra looked at the child sitting beside her. Sarah had finally released the photograph, tucking it carefully into her pocket. She stared out at the memorial growing smaller in the distance, at the monument that would stand for a decade as proof that one girl's love had been strong enough to bend the will of an empire. "What happens now?" Sarah asked quietly. Lysandra thought about the reports she'd have to file, the diplomatic chaos waiting for her, the hundreds of questions she couldn't answer. She thought about the treaty that had been broken and remade in the span of an hour, about the precedent that would echo through both their civilizations for generations. But mostly, she thought about a child who'd built a suit from spare parts, launched herself into space, and refused to let fear or law or the vast emptiness of the void stop her from saying goodbye to her father. "Now," Lysandra said, "you become a legend. A girl who made a queen remember how to grieve. The human who taught an empire that love is stronger than protocol. Your father asked you to be brave, Sarah. You didn't just honor that request. You showed the galaxy what human bravery actually means." Sarah closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to rest. "I just wanted to say goodbye." "I know," Lysandra whispered. "And because you did, everything changes." She was right. The memorial at the Valiant Dawn's coordinates became the most visited location in human space. Families traveled from Earth's colonies, from mining stations in the asteroid belts, from research outposts on the galaxy's edge. They came to honor their dead, to remember those lost to the void, and to pay respect to the girl who'd shown them that grief deserved recognition. The Kael'thari kept their promise. For 10 years, their flagship maintained position, their queen herself standing vigil over the memorial she'd created. And when humans approached, they were welcomed with the same respect the Queen had shown Sarah. Diplomatic relations between the species transformed, The rigid protocols that had kept humanity and the Kael'tari at arm's length for 2 centuries began to soften. Cultural exchanges started. Joint scientific endeavors launched. And at the center of it all stood a single truth that both civilizations had to acknowledge. A child's courage had accomplished what 1,000 diplomats could not. Sarah Voss grew up in the shadow of her own legend. She never sought fame, never capitalized on her story. Instead, she became an engineer, designing better pressure suits and emergency systems so that no other child would have to cobble together makeshift equipment to reach the ones they loved. She worked quietly, efficiently, honoring her father's memory through action rather than words. But once a year, on the anniversary of the Valiant Dawn's destruction, she returned to the memorial, and every year, without fail, a Kael'tari vessel appeared in orbit. Sometimes it was a small courier ship, sometimes it was a battlecruiser, and once, on the 10th anniversary, it was the Queen's flagship itself. Sarah never spoke to the Queen again. She didn't need to. The message had been delivered, the acknowledgement had been made. 2 species had learned to see each other not as alien threats or diplomatic puzzles, but as beings capable of love, grief, and the courage to honor both. Lysandra Chen eventually retired from military service and became humanity's ambassador to the Kael'tari Empire. She spent 3 decades building on the foundation that Sarah's desperate journey had created. She negotiated treaties, resolved conflicts, and navigated the complex dance of interspecies politics. But her proudest achievement remained the hours she'd spent watching a child teach a queen how to remember compassion. In the Imperial Archives of the Kael'tari, accessible to any being in the galaxy who sought knowledge, one entry stood above all others in terms of access requests. It told the story of Marcus Voss, Kai Shane, guardian and protector, who died ensuring his crew could live. And it told the story of his daughter, Sarah, who crossed the void itself to ensure his memory endured. The entry concluded with words written by the Queen herself. On this day, the smallest among the humans proved themselves the greatest. Let it be known across all territories, all dimensions, all timelines where our consciousness extends, humanity grieves with a ferocity that reshapes reality. They love with an intensity that breaks laws and bends the will of empires. They are young, fragile, and mortal. They are also the bravest beings we have ever encountered. Let them be honored. Let them be remembered. And let it never be forgotten that one child's determination to say goodbye changed the course of 2 civilizations forever. The memorial still floats at those coordinates, maintained now not by Kael'tari power, but by joint human-alien stewardship. The names still glow, the command chair still waits in its stasis field, and every human child learns the story of Sarah Voss, the girl who broke every law to say goodbye, and in doing so, earned humanity the respect of an empire that had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Because in the end, love proved stronger than fear. Grief proved worthier than protocol. And one small human, grieving and determined and impossibly brave, reminded the galaxy that the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology or weapons or vast computational intelligence. It's the willingness to risk everything for those we love, and the courage to ensure they're never forgotten. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, everyone agreed, was exactly as it should be.